Welcome to the Richard Sherman Podcast. Hit that sub button if you're new. We're here to give you great NFL content, game recaps, player interviews, and stories from around the league. Please tune in. Welcome back to the Richard Sherman Podcast. It's been a crazy week. The Seattle Seahawks took the game to overtime after a really frustrating second half, some interceptions, had a chance and just could not capitalize. 4th and 1. The LA Rams got a stop, a much-needed stop. Stafford drove right down the field, scored a touchdown. I mean, this week was full of upsets, but this one, Mitchell, this one hurt.
I got to believe it did, Richard. I mean, this game, it looked like the Seattle Seahawks had it. You know, I mean, the Rams came out. The Rams are a good team. Let's start there. They're a very good team. Matthew Stafford at the helm, and they're starting to get healthy again. But I thought Seattle, they needed this game more. I think the question starts. It's a simple question. Why do you not take the points in overtime, Richard? That was a back-breaking decision on 4th and short. They come up short, and then the Rams go down and inevitably score the game-winning touchdown. Where's your head at, Richard, with this decision to not take the points in overtime?
Because you get beat. Taking 3 points in a game where you got Matthew Stafford on the other side, you get beat. So I support the decision to go for it on 4th and 1 because you got 1 yard to go. You had 3 opportunities to get it. I do not. You just watched your O-line get decimated, get dominated multiple plays in a row. Kenneth Walker III getting stopped. So come up with a better play call in a situation. That's the only thing that frustrated me. It's like, hey, you're just going to keep running your head into a wall and assume he's going to pop. How about you either QB sneak it and trust your center and trust everybody to push Geno over the pile, or you roll him out, give him a run pass option, another opportunity. But I'm with the go for it on that play. You got to go for the win in that situation. Your team needs it. You're at home. You got the momentum. You go for the win. And they just did not get it done. They did not execute well enough. The play call was not good enough. So that's just something they're going to have to learn from. But Geno Smith had a rough day. He had a rough day. He got beat up. Another 7-sack day. He did throw for 363 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 2 back-to-back. I mean, one of them was a pick 6 interceptions in the red zone. They were 1 for 4 in the red zone. That is tough to win ball games when you're 1 for 4 in the red zone, especially division games. You got to execute. You got stopped. You were 2 for 2 on 4th downs before that 4th and 1 stop. You got to find a way to get that done. You got to find a way to get a yard. The defense, they got the turnover. Tariq Woolen got the interception, but they dropped another interception, and they never got to Matthew Stafford. They had no sacks on the day. That's unacceptable. You cannot go into this game. This Rams offensive line isn't world beaters. They're not the best offensive line in football. Arguably, you've gone against several offensive lines that would be considered better than the one that you just faced, and you've gotten much more pressure on the quarterback to not be able to get Matthew Stafford on the ground. And not that there weren't opportunities. There were times they came scot-free. They got to him. But Matthew Stafford is in the pocket. He's ducking under arms. He's slipping away. He's throwing the ball away. He's not allowing the people get to him. But again, you got to give the special teams for the Seattle Seahawks credit. They had a block punt, but you have to, again, be able to capitalize on these things and get points. They just weren't able to do it. And in overtime, you got to play Tariq Woolen where he had a chance to intercept the football to Demarcus Robinson coming across the was it Demarcus Robinson or was it, I think it was Johnson coming across on an over route. But he just waits for the ball instead of just taking a step forward or two and running into the pass. In this league, you can't wait for anything. You wait for anything, hungrier dogs will come take the football, and that's what happened. And then again, Stafford pushes the ball down the field to win the game. No fear. No. That's why you don't kick the field goal, because what is the field goal going to do for you right there? They're going to go for the jugular. They didn't need a touchdown right there. They could have won with a field goal, but you're playing against Matthew Stafford. If they get the look that they want, if they get the coverage they're looking for, they're going to push the ball down the field. He's shown that time and time again, and he showed it this time. Great pass by him. Great catch by Demarcus Robinson. One-hand catch. He pushed off on Tariq Woolen, but they never call that in the National Football League. I've yet to see them call a receiver pushing off and for the game. And that's the game. That's the ball game. The Seahawks got got to buy this week to sit and think about it and look at the film and see what they're going to change and what they're going to adjust. But this offensive line continues to be an issue, and it's going to continue to be an issue until something gets fixed. And it's really the interior offensive line. But what do? You don't. There aren't any easy answers or quick solutions. So I don't know where you go from here.
Well, that's just a question. I mean, where do you go from here? This division is up for grabs. I mean, it's anyone's game right now. I mean, the Rams climbed to 500. I mean, Seattle, they were looking good to start this season off, Richard, and now they're in last place of the division. And I mean, you see the Arizona Cardinals beat the Bears at home. Obviously the 49ers are getting healthier. What is it going to take for Seattle to gain ground and restake their claim in this division? Because really, Richard, it is up for grabs still, despite this loss.
They're gonna put more pressure on the quarterback. They have a really talented defense and defensive line, and they got to get home. And they got to finish the job. They're getting home. Leonard Williams is getting home. You could see all the talent they have on that defensive line. Guys doing a great job. Jaron Reed, they're putting pressure on the quarterback, but they're not getting home and finishing the job, and that's costing them a lot of plays. They got to protect the quarterback. I mean, I don't know how many more times we could say it. We can get on here every single week and be like, hey, protect the quarterback, protect the quarterback. I don't know if anybody's getting hit or sacked more than Geno Smith right now. And Geno, there are times he could have made better decisions with the football. He's trying to make things happen. And at the end of the game, he had some incredible throws to JSN. He did use the count really well throughout this game. He made sure that, he capitalized on the free plays, a touchdown to Tyler Lockett. JSN, I mean, on a 4th and 5, a dime of a pass to really get them into overtime, and a touchdown pass at the end to push the game to OT, a big stop by the defense. But again, those not executing in the red zone, that's what doomed them. In a game like this, you look back and those are the plays where you're like, man, that's points, whether it's 3 or 6 or 7, you got to get them.
No question about it. I mean, the offensive weapons are in-house in Seattle. JSN, Jackson Smith, and Jigba proved himself. He's a playmaker in this league. I mean, we've talked about it for the last 2 years. I mean, today was his day. I mean, he showed himself without DK Metcalf on the field with 7 catches for 180 and 2 touchdowns. This team has offensive playmakers. The question is, can they avoid the big mistakes? I mean, throwing the 103-yard interception return for a touchdown to Cameron Kitchens, I mean, that is a backbreaker for this team because Seattle had this game in hand. And when you give Matthew Stafford opportunities, I've seen it, Richard. I lived it here in Detroit. When you give this man opportunities, it's not going to work out for you. And it worked in his favor today. The LA Rams, they're getting healthy. They look very good. If they can get Puka Nacua backing up and cooking, I mean, this is a team that could easily compete for this division. What do you think of the Rams going forward, Richard? Because I know you have a stake in the 49ers. I know you want to see the 49ers get healthy, but it's got to cause a little element of concern for you seeing the Rams also getting healthy.
Yeah, I mean, not for me particularly, but it is for the division because as they get healthier. I mean, a few weeks ago, you thought it was a fire sale. Or you hear about
100%.
Puka Nacua being available, Cooper Kupp being available, all these guys, and they pretty much did this a lot of the times without Puka Nacua, who got ejected from the game for throwing a punch. I mean, this league is just getting ridiculously soft in so many different ways, and it's just laughable what this game has become. I mean, you saw it in your Detroit Lions game. They
I
they
did.
eject Brian Branch for a helmet-to-helmet hit when he's trying to dislodge the football from the player. I mean, that's what this game was built on. And I know everybody's like, oh, well, we're evolving and all evolution isn't a great thing. And that's a bad part of the game. That should be reviewed. If you're going to give the 15-yard penalty, give the 15-yard penalty. Cool. But to eject the guy from the game thinking, oh, man, he went too high. He has literally a millisecond to decide to make his decision and strike. And when he does that, a receiver can move up and down and around and left and right, and you just have to aim for where you think he's going to be. And that's what he did. I thought the hit was fine, maybe a little high. If it's high, you flag him, but to kick him out of the game and really can affect, he's one of your big-time playmakers, amongst the league leaders in interceptions, and you kick him out of a ball game early in a divisional game, you could, if the Lions lose that game, you could obviously point to that being a huge factor.
No question about it. Richard, you speak for me. I think you speak for the vast majority of football fans. This game, it's gotten ridiculous for defensive players. How do you even think about hitting somebody?
The roller coaster of an NFL season is moving right along, and it promises to be a month full of tricks, treats, and of course, touchdowns. And DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Running it in from the 1 or on an 80-yard bomb, we don't care how they score touchdowns. We just want to bet on them. DraftKings heard us, and they are delivering. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple, like a player to score a touchdown. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Here's a reason for new customers to do a touchdown dance of their own. Bet just $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code RICHARD. That's code RICHARD for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime Video. It's the best season yet, packed with big rivalries and even bigger stars. Join Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, and Kaylee Hartung every week for the games you can't miss. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern with football's best party, TNF Tonight. Not a Prime member? Not a problem. Simply sign up for a 30-day free trial, and you can cancel at any time. It's Thursday Night Football, and it's on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
Let's take it to Detroit. I mean, this is a huge game in Green Bay, right? The elements at play. Detroit has not left a artificial turf environment all season. Everyone's talking about the rain in Lambeau. Everyone's talking about the playing surface in Lambeau, the cleats being shifted up. I mean, Dan Campbell said it. What's the most important factor of this game? The shoes you wear. And Detroit came out, and Richard, I'm a Detroiter. I'm fired up. You're going to have to talk me off this pedestal that I'm on. When I look at the Detroit Lions, I see a Super Bowl team. And maybe I'm nuts, but when you go on the road in your division, and we've talked about this the last couple of weeks, these divisional games are so crucial, right? They're so crucial that they make or break teams. And Detroit just was whomping on Green Bay. 24-3 at half. I know they didn't score after the first half, but Richard, I got to know, like, where's your head at with this Detroit Lions team? Because I could talk forever about how positive I feel about this Lions team. Where's your head at?
I think they're an incredible team. I think they're one of the best teams, obviously the best team in the NFC. I have questions about, long term and defensive. I think they have to make a move for a pass rusher. I've heard they're in the market for Zadarius Smith and a number of other guys who could really help. Now you get one of those guys, to help put some more pressure on these quarterbacks, then I'm all on board with you, Mitchell, because that's the thing. When you get into the playoffs, you get into these tight ball games, who can get to the quarterback, who can get to the quarterback successfully. You have a really talented secondary, but nobody can cover forever. So if guys get more time, you start to find holes in zones. You start to find holes. But right now, they're doing a phenomenal job. They held Jordan Love to 273 yards, 23 of 39. He got some garbage time yards in there, so we're not going to count all that. Josh Jacobs was able to have some success on the ground, 13 carries for 95 yards. But I thought Kirby Joseph's interception was an incredible play. I mean, to just be in the right place at the right time, to take your time, to not overrush, to have an awareness of where you are. We just talked about what they did to Brian Branch, which was a ridiculous abuse of power in the National Football League, to kick a player out in the game for nothing egregious, nothing. He didn't do it on purpose. He didn't do anything that you would say, oh man, that was a dirty play. It was a football play. And if it's a football play, I don't like football players getting ejected for it. And that's something that has to be reviewed from New York or talked about because if you do that in a playoff game to an all-pro or Pro Bowl player, who can have a drastic effect on the game, it's too much gambling going on. It's too much at stake in these ball games where people would start to say, hey, man, they're starting to cheat. They're starting to cheat. I mean, defense, you always feel like you're getting cheated, but I mean, that kind of play, you making it impossible. So you're saying, hey, just let the guys catch the ball, because if they start taking guys' legs out and they start landing on their heads and breaking their necks and things like that, then it's going to be a whole different issue. So they're trying to hit guys in the chest. And you saw Kobe Bryant had a great play against the Rams where he hit the guy right in the chest, but his helmet hit the other guy's helmet a little bit. But if you find a way for a guy to lead his body without his head, then I'd be all ears. But when I sat in the competition committee meetings and they had these conversations, I said, hey, I want all you guys who are making these rules, I want you to walk towards the wall. And I want you to walk towards it, and I want you to do it with your head back. And they couldn't do it, Mitchell. They were stumbling. They were falling. I said, okay, now lean your head forward and walk wherever what direction you want to go in. And they realized, hey, you're led by your head. No matter, to run full speed, your head's going to be at the forefront. So if you're talking about striking somebody, you put a foot in the ground, you put your shoulder out front, but I'm leaning my shoulder in, my head's going to, look at this, Mitchell. You measure it, my head, my shoulder. It's going to hit damn near the same time, or my head's going to go first. So some of the things people say, like, oh, he's leading with his head, like, get the head out the game. You can't, unless you tell these guys to stop leading their body. And that's the part of the game I hate. But this Lions team looks phenomenal. Their coaching looks good. Even when they face some adversity, they're overcoming it really quickly. They got a tough game against the Houston Texans next week, who we just saw on TNF. It's in Houston. I think they're a frustrated team. They're beat up at the receiver position. They're supposed to be getting Nico Collins back off the hamstring injury, so I'm looking forward to that game. But right now, there are very few teams that can consider themselves better than the Detroit Lions right now.
And I appreciate you saying that, Richard. Let's talk a little bit about Jared Goff before we turn the page on this Detroit Lion team, because his last two games on paper have looked underwhelming. I mean, what do you have? 83 passing yards and a 52-10 or 52-14 win against the Titans. Now 145 passing yards against these Green Bay Packers. But then you look at the fact that this guy, his completion percentage is off the charts, Richard. Where do you put him? I mean, I know Lamar Jackson's been having a hell of a year, but is he a realistic MVP candidate right now, the way he's playing football for this Detroit Lion football team?
If you're just looking at the efficiency numbers, Mitchell, you got to give him at least a fair look, because it's ridiculous. I mean, he's breaking records left and right. He's been so efficient, not turning the ball over at a high rate. But then you start to look at the overall numbers, and he's just not throwing for very many yards. I think he's 14th right now in yards. He's 9th in touchdowns. And those numbers for an MVP just aren't going to get it done. And we talked about this last year when we were talking about Lamar Jackson, where his numbers stacked up in the National Football League. And, I wasn't feeling it. But this year, it's totally different. He looks like his 2019 MVP season. So if he's having a year like that, Josh Allen's also having a phenomenal year where he's thrown for 2,000 yards and he's got 17 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, both coming in the last 2 weeks. They're winning ball games. They're 7-2 right now. And so Lamar Jackson's number 1 in the league in passing yards. I think he's he's second in the league in passing yards, number 1 in QBR, second in touchdown passes with 20, only 2 interceptions. Those are MVP numbers. I mean, he almost has as many touchdown passes right now, 9 games into the season, as he did over 16 games last year. And that's when I was saying that last year, they're like, oh, you're a hater. You're a hater. I'm not no hater. I just know what MVP numbers look like. And he has them. These are MVP numbers. He has 20 touchdown passes 9 games into the season. He had 24 last year, the whole season. And that's this. He's running away with MVP. And has Jared Goff played an amazing and winning football and done a phenomenal job? No question about it. But he's going to have to throw for more touchdowns. He's going to have to throw for more yards if he wants to get in this conversation. Now, if he's holding a trophy at the end, I don't think he cares, Mitchell. But if we're talking about the MVP conversation, he got to get some more numbers.
I'm with you. And let's talk about Baltimore a little bit, because this was that measuring stick game, I think, for the Denver Broncos. And they go on the road into Baltimore and they get shellacked. I don't know if any other word's going to exemplify their showing. losing by 31 points on the road. And Baltimore, I mean, for them, this goes to show they're a team, they're a force to be reckoned with in this AFC. And I know their kryptonite is the Kansas City Chiefs. I know everyone's kryptonite in the AFC is Patrick Mahomes. You know, Richard, Baltimore looks damn good. I mean, what's the ceiling for this team? Can they get past Patrick Mahomes and this Kansas City Chiefs team? Do you believe in this Baltimore Ravens team right now?
What I believe in, they got 2 MVP candidates, because you look at what Derrick Henry's done. He's got, third running back in league history with 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns through 9 games in the football season. The last 2 won the MVP. It was Sean Alexander and Terrell Davis. And you look at Lamar Jackson. I just talked about him. He had his fourth game with a perfect passer rating, most of any player with 15 plus attempts. He's playing out of his mind right now. I mean, he's playing elite. He's pushing the ball down the field. We talked about his passing numbers. He's running the ball really well. I think he has 505 rush yards as well to go along with his 2,300 or so passing yards. And he's really efficient, Mitchell. He's not turning the ball over at all. He's putting his team in phenomenal positions. They're scoring a ton of points every single week. They look incredibly formidable. But then you look up and you're like, wait, they lost to the Browns and the Raiders? Like, how? Why? You can understand the Kansas City Chiefs lost his first game of the season. A lot of chaos. It's the Super Bowl champions. But then you look at the Browns and the Raiders, you're like, hey, I don't know. It leaves a lot for the imagination, because now I need to see you against your division. I don't, there are still things I need to see from this team because of those losses. Are they a great team? Has the defense played incredibly? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. To hold the Denver Broncos to 10 points, to score 41 points on this defense that has been amongst the league leaders. Vance Joseph has had these boys hunting all season, playing really, really high-level defensive football. Bo Nix has had really good games over the past 3 or 4 ball games. And in this game, I mean, he was held to 19 of 33, 223 yards. He had the reception touchdown on the Philly special play, but he's been feeding Cortland Sutton, who had another 100-yard game, but they held him in check, forced him to throw an interception. They had their way with that defense, trying to play man coverage. They could not stop Zay Flowers, 5 catches for 127 and 2 tugs. This team looks to be a very formidable team, but those concerning head-scratching losses are the reason I can't put them up, above 3 in my power rankings, because you're losing to teams who just aren't playing great football right now. You lost to Gardner Minshew and you lost to Jameis, who had a really good game, and obviously we saw the chaos at the end, but they just got their butts kicked this week. And so, you think, oh man, they're about to turn it around, but then they didn't. So what they do this week on Thursday night in front of us in Baltimore is really going to give me what I need to see, because the Cincinnati Bengals aren't a great team, but offensively, Joe Burrow just threw for 5 touchdowns. This defense is coming along, as they always do around this time in the season. They're 3-1 over their last 4. So you look and you say, okay, Baltimore, is your time. Blow out a division opponent and let us all know, put us all on notice. So if they're able to do that, then they get to say that. Now I still need them to do more.
No question. I know you got to be fired up to be going to Baltimore on Thursday, Richard. It's going to be a huge game, and it's going to be another huge opportunity for Lamar Jackson. He is our player in primetime, brought to you by our friends and partners at Breitling. We've already talked about him enough. Richard, I'm sporting my Honolulu blue Breitling. I know you got yours on too, and trust me, I'm going to be giving this to you to wear sideline when you're in Detroit. The Honolulu Blue Breitling when you're in Detroit for that Thursday night game against the Pack. But this Lamar Jackson, if he keeps going the way he is, he's deserving of a repeat MVP. He is our players in primetime, brought to you by our friends at Breitling. Make sure you guys go check them out. They've got 100 watches each for each team. You guys got to look at them. Even if you're not going to buy them, at least look at them. They're beautiful. They're beautiful pieces. Richard.
Yeah, Mitchell, they're going to have a hard time not giving him player of the month this month. I mean, he's over the last 5 games, Lamar Jackson, 14 touchdown passes, 1 interception, and just high level football, high level football. They're running it, they're passing it, making great decisions, fourth down efficiency, perfect passer rating this game. I mean, what can't you say about him? The leading candidate for MVP right now. And we all talked about these guys throwing all these touchdown passes. We talked about Jordan Love and Patrick Mahomes, but they're throwing a lot of interceptions right now. They're
Yeah.
1 and 2 in the league in interceptions thrown. And even Baker Mayfield, who's leading the league in passing yards or passing touchdowns, and I want to say yards, is just thrown a ton of interceptions. So you would think, oh man, they got a high risk, high reward kind of deal, but Lamar Jackson's doing it, and so is Josh Allen very efficiently.
Let's go to Atlanta, Richard. Let's talk about the sinking ship that is the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if many people saw this coming into the season. They're 3-5 right now, and I think, frankly, they look horrendous. The Atlanta Falcons are 6-3. I mean, what's the bigger story here in your eyes? The fact that Atlanta is 6-3, or the fact that the Dallas Cowboys are an abysmal 3-5?
I would say the Dallas Cowboys, because I think a lot of people, were giving a lot of credit to the moves that Atlanta made throughout the offseason. I think, people were criticizing him about the Michael Penix move and drafting him in the first round, but he's the future of the franchise, and they believe that. But they have the current right now in Kirk Cousins, and I think he's enjoying himself. He's adopting the Atlanta culture and the Atlanta vibes and everything that they stand for. And I think the city's embracing him and he's embracing the city, and he's having a lot of fun, Mitchell. He was 19 of 24 today, 3 touchdown passes. He was able to hit Drake London on a fade route or a wheel route in the end zone. He was able to hit Mooney on a broken coverage. It looked like they just busted cover 2. And you just gotta. I'm happy for Kirk. I'm happy for Kirk. He's always been one of the quarterbacks that I thought was a way better, and closer to elite than anybody gave him credit. And he's on a team with a lot of talent. I think Kyle Pitts is starting to benefit from it. Obviously, Darnell Mooney, but John Robinson had 7 catches for 59 yards, 12 rushes for 75 yards, his best all-purpose yards game of the season. And they're finally giving him more touches, giving him, getting him the ball in space a lot more. Remember last year when the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones was at the trade deadline, was like, hey, we're not making any moves. I mean, unless somebody calls us and gives us an offer we can't refuse, we just going to keep doing what we do. Well, Jerry, your team looks abysmal. You should have made decisions during the offseason when you were all in. All in meant all out, I guess, Mitchell.
Yeah.
Because everybody about to be out in a second. They about to say, you got to go, you got to go, you got to go, you got to go, because they made a terrible move picking their defensive coordinator. Now, I've talked to players on that team. I've talked to guys on that staff. I've talked to ex-players who played in this scheme. It's too predictable. Mike Zimmer's scheme is too predictable. He doesn't adjust. He doesn't adapt to what's going on right now. Like, you have to adapt to the league that it is right now. You can't say, hey, I've had success in the past and I've always done this and I've always done that. You have to evolve. You have to adapt to what's happening right now. And he's not. You know when they're going to be in man. You know when they're going to be in zone. You know what zone they're running. It's predictable, and you can dictate their formations. If it's 3rd and short, they're in man. If they're in the red zone inside the 5, they're in man. It's really resulted in them being a terrible red zone defense because of how predictable they are. And you look and you see a lot of the same talented pieces that were there when Dan Quinn was there, and they were amongst the league leaders at top 10 defense, number 1 in turnovers over the past however many years. And now they can't seem to get any turnovers. They're not getting to the quarterback at the high tilt. Now, DeMarcus Lawrence is hurt. Micah Parsons is out. You got to give him credit for that. Yes, sir. I understand that. But there are still really talented guys there. Carl Lawson was able to get to the quarterback. He was a free agent acquisition, was able to get to the quarterback a few times in this game. But what's happened to CeeDee Lamb? What's happened to the rapport between Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb? Dak Prescott, 18 to 24, but only 133 yards and a touchdown. They said something about his running this week, that he had less rushing yards than your boy Jared Goff and I think A-Rod. And so now he ran for 30 yards. But again, Now he pulls his hamstring, Mitchell. They almost talked him into pulling his hamstring. So they tell you you're not running it enough. You laugh it off and say, man, that's bad. They get you to run the ball and you pull your hamstring in the game. And then they put Cooper Rush in, which is going to start a whole different controversy because there's a small contingent of Dallas Cowboy fans who have been saying Cooper Rush, put Cooper Rush in the game. Well, they're going to have another few games of Cooper Rush, I would believe, depending on the severity of Dak Prescott's hamstring injury. And if he finds a way to win games, Mitchell, this is the kind of ridiculousness that happens in Dallas that people would be saying they need to start him over the $60 million quarterback. I'm not the one saying it, Mitchell, and I would never say it because that's ridiculous. But there are people that wear Dallas Cowboys gear every single week that will be saying that.
We had a buy or sell segment last week, Richard. I said buy or sell. Dak Prescott is going to be not on this team next year. Richard, if it keeps going down this path, the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry. I mean, he does not accept losing. This city does not accept losing. Where do we go from here with Dallas? I mean, we're at the halfway point. They're 3-5. I mean, conceivably, they're not out of the playoff picture, but for all intents and purposes, they've been getting absolutely shelled by teams. I mean, I know this was a 6-point game, but they were down by multiple scores for the bulk of this game. They made it look close late. I just don't know what the end goal is with this Cowboys team. They made no moves this offseason. They're stuck in no man's land. They're in cap hell. They've got to pay all their players that are supposed to be the team players that are going to elevate this team. Where do we go from here? Is Dak Prescott going to be part of the long-term solution with this team?
Mitchell, I'm going to let you know something that you may not know because I need to look this up. Sorry, I'm on my phone. I need to look up Dak's contract details, and I need to so I can have exact numbers for you because perfect. Got it. So Dak's deal that he got, Mitchell, for all of that money hasn't even started yet. And so everybody is going to be gone before Dak Prescott's gone. Dak Prescott makes 1.25 base salary this year. He makes $47 million next year, 40 the next year, 45 the following year, et cetera, 55 in 2028. Let's see, the $129 million guaranteed at signing, which is his 2024 salary plus his 2025 salary. His 2026 salary is guaranteed March 16th of 2025. Injury guaranteed at signing. And fifth day of league year of 2026, his 2027 salary is guaranteed. So Mitchell, McCarthy's going to be gone. And the rumors that he's picking up Prime and he's picking up Shador are going to be as loud as they possibly can be. Now, don't let the Dallas Cowboys be picking in the top 10 of the National Football League's draft. Do not let the Dallas Cowboys be picking in the top 5 of the National Football League's draft because the amount of noise you're going to hear about them picking up Shador Sanders, Mitchell, it's going to sound like CenturyLink during the NFC Championship game that we are about to win. Mitchell, it's deafening. It's ridiculously deafening. And it's rightfully so. Then they're going to be sitting there saying, well, why doesn't his dad coach him again? He coached him at the high school level. He coached him at the college level. He coached him at Dallas. And one star that could be big enough to walk into Dallas and overshadow Jerry Jones just a little bit is Prime. And Mitchell, that's just the conversation that it's going to be. Am I stoking fires that probably aren't there? Is Deion likely going to just stay at Colorado and have a good time and keep coaching his butt off? Sure. But I like the controversy, Mitchell. And it's the Dallas Cowboys. You never freaking know. All you know is that in January, they're not going to be there, at least at the end.
I love that prophecy, Richard. I could totally see it. And they've got the Eagles on the docket next week. If they lose that game, I mean, we might be a step closer to that prophecy.
And for all the gamers out there, get ready because Call of Duty is back. Forced to go rogue, hunted from within. This is Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Developed by Treyarch and Raven, Black Ops 6 is a mind-bending narrative. And unbound by the rules of engagement, this is signature Black Ops. Dynamic moment-to-moment gameplay, including a variety of play spaces with blockbuster set pieces and action-packed moments. High-stakes heists, and cloak and dagger spy activity. Best-in-class multiplayer experience. You will test your skills across 16 new maps at launch, including 12 core 6v6 maps and 4 strike maps that can be played 2v2 or 6v6, marking the epic return of round-based zombies, the fan-favorite mode where players will take down hordes of undead and 2 brand new maps at launch. You can look forward to even more exciting maps and groundbreaking experiences dropping on both multiplayer and zombies. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is a spy action thriller set in the 90s by the end of the Cold War and the rise of the United States as a single superpower. Head over to callofduty.com/Black Ops 6 and get in the game. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 available now, rated M for mature.
Let's talk about the Eagles a little bit. They are hot right now. I mean, if you're not talking about my Detroit Lions, we might as well be talking about the Philadelphia Eagles as the second hottest team in this NFC right now. They beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. They gave them a little bit of life. You know, I mean, this game is closer than it probably should have been, 28-23, but Saquon Barkley is flat out balling. I mean, he jumped over a guy backwards today. I don't know if you saw that, but I mean, I've never seen that before in my life. Saquon Barkley, it seems like, is the perfect fit for this Philadelphia Eagles team. Let's talk about the Eagles. Where's your head at with this team? How far do you think they can realistically go? Because they look a lot better than they did last year right now, Rich.
They look really good. And Jalen Hurts looks really accurate. I mean, he threw some pinpoint passes in traffic, dimes to Devontae Smith and to all day, always open A.J. Brown and to Saquon for that matter. But I thought defensively they made some progress too. I thought they made some plays, put pressure on Trevor Lawrence. Caused 2 interceptions. Well, one of them, I mean, came off of Travis Etienne's hands. I mean, it was a pretty good pass by Trevor Lawrence, just a drop by Etienne right into the right up in the air. Defender dove, caught it. You can't really put that one on Trevor, but it's going to be on Trevor. You know, I'm sorry. That's how it works. The good ones, the good touchdown passes that you're like, oh, that wasn't a great pass, and the receiver makes a crazy catch. That's the quarterback's touchdown too. And when it's a great pass and the receiver just drops it and bounces it up in the air, it's an interception. That happens too. But you have to give the Eagles a lot of credit. I mean, you saw the clip with Sirianni at home going back and forth with the fan, and everybody was like, oh, what is he doing? Even I was like, what is he doing? Then the article comes out, and the fan does a video talking about he was telling Sirianni, hey, you ran it for 5 yards on first down. On second down, you run for it again, you got a first down. But instead, you pass it 2 times, and now it's 4th and 5. So he's telling them, run the ball, run it down their throats. And then you look up, and at the end of the game, I think Saquon had like 160 or 170 yards rushing, and he turns around and said, did I run it enough for you? Like, was that enough? We ran it. We ran it, and we ran it, and we ran it. I listened. And people, it didn't look great if you didn't know what he was saying. But if you knew what he was saying, you're like, hey, that's pretty cool. That's actually pretty cool. And their season has turned around. They're 6-2. If you went back to that moment in time where Philadelphia fans are booing him, and we're saying he's on the hot seat, they're about to fire him, and now they're 6-2, tied for the lead in the division, you'd call me crazy. But that's games in Philly. We got to go to Philly in a couple weeks. And they're playing the Washington Commanders, Mitchell. That's why I'm saying, like Lee Corso would, not so fast, my friend, because those Washington Commanders look really good. Good. They another tough divisional game against the Giants. The Giants made the game closer than it had to be. But Jaden Daniel, I mean, he looked like the guy. Steel, and steel. Guy is elite. He's efficient. He's using his legs when he's supposed to. He's keeping himself out of harm's way, even with the sore ribs. He's dropping dimes to Terry McLaurin. Mitchell, they had 11 seconds to go in the game, in the half. No timeouts. You got a rookie quarterback, and I think they were about 18 or 19 yards away from the end zone. You know what he does, Mitchell? He drops back, throws a dime on a sluggo, a slant and go route to Terry McLaurin, corner of the end zone, back shoulder, tug. I said, sheesh. This boy makes you want to. It feels like it stinks in the room, Mitchell, because my face just. Yeah. Like, who is this guy? A rook out here controlling the game, pinpoint passes under pressure in those situations. You expect a rookie to make a mistake, to hold the ball too long, maybe take a sack, randomly throw the ball up, but he just looks like he has such a command of the offense, such a calm. The game is moving too fast for him. He's got a relationship with Terry McLaurin that's only getting better and tighter. Their chemistry is getting better. This is a team that I need to see against the Philadelphia Eagles because I'm not sure the Philadelphia Eagles are better than them, but maybe they are. They're definitely more veteran.
Well, that division is heating up in a way we did not see coming at the beginning of the season. And like you said, and it goes to show you, I mean, we heard reports earlier today that players are telling their agents, hey, I want to play for this team. I want to play for the Commanders. I mean, it goes to show you how quickly things can change. And I know that you have a relationship with DQ, the head coach there, Dan Quinn. Did you see this coming when they hired him this offseason? Because he's always been looking for his opportunity. It just seems like this was the perfect fit for him. And this, I guess, you have Jaden Daniels fall into your lap at too. Richard, how does this all happen in one offseason? Because Washington was not thought of as a city that many players wanted to go to.
Well, you gotta think. Dan Quinn's first head coaching opportunity was in Atlanta, and he took his team to the Super Bowl the first year. I mean, it ended up being a memeable Super Bowl when they had the 28-3 lead, and Tom and those guys come running all the way back and beat them. But that's the coach that took his team to the Super Bowl in the first year. So I knew the culture would be good. I knew them bringing in really championship caliber all pro leaders like Zach Ertz and Bobby Wagner would have a positive effect. But no, I cannot imagine them being 7-2 at this point in the season. And this young quarterback playing at not only an offensive rookie of the year type level, but if it wasn't for Lamar Jackson just playing outside of his mind, you'd be talking about potentially MVP if this team can find a way to keep winning ball games and
Sure.
him keep pushing the ball down the field like he has. And outside of Terry McLaurin, it's not a ton of receivers you would say are elite in the National Football League, but you got to give Cliff Kingsbury a lot of credit for what he's been doing schematically. I mean, he's been really creative. You see some plays out of the Washington Commanders that you have never seen in the National Football League ever. Some creativity in terms of the concepts, the dropbacks, the rollouts, the reverses. I mean, again, we talked about the flea flicker screen pass to Austin Eckler. That was just crazy. And Austin Eckler, a guy who has played really well, a fantasy dream of sorts in the National Football League, continues to play well, continues to elevate this team, had a really good game this week. And I think he's one of the underrated parts of this offense that continues to keep this engine going. And that defense is coming along. They're getting more pressure on the quarterback. You're seeing the DBs make more plays. Sure, you're seeing busts in the coverage and things that are kind of head scratching. But overall, I mean, to be 7-2 in this league, I mean, they're a couple games away from clinching a playoff spot, and that's something that you couldn't have talked about in Washington for a long time. I can't imagine how cool the city feels. But I got another team I want to talk about because the Jacksonville Jaguars. What's happening in Duval? You talk about hot seats, Mitchell. That's fish grease hot.
Yeah, it is fish grease size. I know you like to talk about Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he had 2 rushing touchdowns today. I thought of you when he eclipsed the end zone on both of those today. I'm like, oh, maybe Richard will speak a little bit better than him today. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, 16-31 for 169 and 2 interceptions. What's going to give? I mean, you just paid this guy an exorbitant amount of money. I mean, what's the end game in Jacksonville? Because it seems like we're all aboard the Titanic and we just about hit that glacier.
Yeah, Mitchell. He's Doug Peterson is probably gonna see the end of his time there, and because they will not blame Trevor Lawrence for some reason. You see people in the comments. They're like, "What is he supposed to do? The receivers are dropping the balls. What is he supposed to do? Like those interceptions aren't on him. In this game, Trevor Etienne's interception wasn't on him, but the one to Nakobe Dean was. That wasn't a great pass. That was, there were better places to put that football. and they could have won that game with that pass. But instead, he turns the ball over, they lose. But they not understanding. Last year, the Kansas City Chiefs, I think, led the league in drops, won the Super Bowl somehow. And they'd say, well, the defense played better. Defense played pretty good today. I mean, Trevon Walker, 35-yard fumble return for a touchdown. So the defense gave you a touchdown today. They gave you a turnover. They had multiple sacks. They put pressure on the quarterback. They're facing a really high-powered offense with a lot of playmakers, but your offense didn't do their part, and the quarterback is a part of that. You had a chance to win the game. You could make a better decision, better placement with the football, and we wouldn't be this critical of him if he wasn't getting top 5 quarterback money. When you're getting top 5 quarterback money, then you get top 5 quarterback criticism. I'm sorry, that's just how the world works. If you're the number 1 paid quarterback in the National Football League, Dak Prescott, he gets highly criticized. It comes with the territory. He understands that. If you're getting top quarterback money, then even if you're not playing to that level and never have, you get that criticism because you're getting paid like it. And if I'm getting paid like an elite, even if I'm not playing elite, maybe it's bad on the team. And the guys who paid him, Trent Baalke, like, why? Why? I mean, you better off going bridge quarterback and drafting. But who am I? They're going to make me a GM someday? Maybe. I'm definitely not going to run it like this. But when you keep going into situations, and you do see situations where you're throwing really good passes and guys are dropping them. I saw several in this game. A first down pass, Evan Ingram dropped. I saw multiple touchdown passes in one game. I think he threw 2 or 3 in one drive. Guys just drop. And I was like, that sucks. But I also watch other teams, and guys drop the touchdowns. And you know what the quarterback does? Mitchell, he keeps throwing them. Josh Allen, they drop a couple touchdown passes. Guess what? He going to throw a couple more. Lamar Jackson, I watched Bateman drop a wide open touchdown, the lights in his eyes, Mitchell, and he's going to throw a couple more. And that's why they're getting paid the big bucks, because no matter what, they will overcome. That's why they get paid like they do. They overcome the circumstances. And you know what? They get paid to do it. And if you're getting paid to do it and you're not doing it, expect to be criticized. That's all I'm saying, Mitchell. 169 yards, 2 interceptions just isn't getting it done. But 2 touchdown rushes on quarterback sneaks, I guess. Good job, Trevor.
I would love to hear the Jacksonville Jaguars fans come at you in the comments after a breakdown like that, because you're absolutely right, Richard. You're absolutely right. With opportunity and money comes much criticism, and he's just not performing. Richard, let's go to Arizona. Arizona had a huge challenge against the Chicago Bears, scrappy, needing a win. Arizona comes out victorious in a big fashion here. I mean, the Chicago Bears are not the Chicago Bears we've seen the last 3 years. They look like a very competitive team. Not today. The Arizona Cardinals come out with a 29-9 win. This NFC West is heating up to be a battle to the finish line. Do you expect the Arizona Cardinals at the end of the year to be firmly in the mix to take this division crown?
I don't know, Mitchell, but because you don't know what you're getting out of this team week to week. But you know what I'll give Jonathan Gannon credit for? Because even when Kyler Murray was out, you saw teams go in there, and we talked about it because they beat the Dallas Cowboys last year. They beat a couple other teams, and they were finding ways to win games because James Conner is a bully, and they got an offensive line that feels the same way, and they run the ball really well, and they keep running and they stay consistent with it. Amari DiMercato, I don't even know where he came from, Mitchell, but he had a 53-yard rushing touchdown, and he ran away from the entire defense. And I was like, wait, who is this? Who is this? And where is James Conner? But you again, they are staying committed to the run game. And Jonathan Gannon, it sounds like he has some old school coach in his ear telling him, you know what wins games? Defense, run game, controlling the clock, like good special teams. And that's what they're doing, Mitchell. They're playing really good defense sound. They're not allowing Kyler Murray to push the ball down the field all that much. I mean, he threw the ball 20 times this game. He was 13 of 20 for 154, no touchdowns, no interception. He did lose that fumble, but they're not going to put the ball in harm's way. They're going to be efficient. Don't turn the ball over. Kyler, run it when you can. Give it to James Conner. Let him wear the defense down. And it's winning football. They're 5-4. This Bears defense that I have a lot of respect for. Jalen Johnson and the boys have been playing really good football all year long, and this is one of those games where I think they just had an off game. They just had an off day, and so did Caleb Williams. I mean, he just did not look good. You saw, the one pass where he tried to sidearm, shortstop to first base, throw it down the field, and almost got picked off. But it just seemed like they didn't want to catch that football. It was too hot. But Caleb Williams, 22 of 41, 217 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, but sacked 6 times, beat up in this game. Arizona was bringing pressure from all over the place. And you look up and Zaven Collins, 2 sacks. Xavier Thomas, sack and a half. Guys getting pressure, but this is a team with relatively unknown players. Outside of Budda Baker, you don't know a ton of these guys on this defense that are making plays. Zaven Collins was drafted pretty high. Outside of James Conner and Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., you don't know a ton about this offense and what they've been doing. But Mitchell, they're getting the job done. And if you don't, they're leading the NFC West right now, Mitchell. And if you don't, if the San Francisco 49ers, Seattle Seahawks, and the Rams don't get their stuff together, they will walk away with it. Cardinals are playing the Jets, who just got a win on Thursday against the Houston Texans and may be getting their mojo back. But with this wild card Cardinals team, you just never know. You never know what they're going to do.
You don't. I mean, this game next weekend is going to be a huge game for both teams, the Cardinals against the Jets. And then you look at the Bears. I mean, they're 4-4. A lot of folks in Chicago were hot on this team, but let's set these fans back to reality. Their 4 wins have come against the Panthers, an injury-riddled Rams team, the Jags, and the Titans. So they get another opportunity next week to add to their resume with a potential win against the Patriots. I got to see more from the Chicago Bears. This was an opportunity on the road against a team needing a win in Arizona for them to show themselves, and I think they dropped it. I don't know, Rich. I mean, this NFC North is a highly contested battle going on right now. I think Chicago might fade a little bit, but let's talk about a team that needs to rise, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals. They were in much need of a win this week, hosting the Raiders, and they did what they did, and they absolutely obliterated the Las Vegas Raiders. Joe Burrow had a field day throwing for 5 touchdowns. Is it safe to say that the Cincinnati Bengals are back to what we thought they would be? Are they in competition area? Where's your head at with this team?
Well, I still don't know, Mitchell. I don't know. Let me look at a couple of things, because the Cincinnati Bengals are just inconsistent. And what they've been over the last 4 games defensively is a much better team than they've been over the first 4 games. Almost totally different teams in general. But you look up and you say, this team has all the talent in the world. They have the ability to turn up on defense. They have the corners to play at a high level. They have the pass rushers to get to the quarterback in Hendrickson and Hubbard. But you just don't see it consistently. And Joe Burrow throws 5 touchdown passes for the second time this season. But then you look up and you're like, oh, he must have 30 touchdowns this year. And he doesn't. He's not leading the league right now in touchdown passes. I think he has, he's third. He's tied for third in the league. So a quarter of his touchdown passes came today. So without T. Higgins in the lineup, you wonder, can they beat a team like the Baltimore Ravens? Hopefully he's going to get back. I thought he had a chance to get back this week. He'll be back next week. But this is the team we expected to see. Trey Hendrickson, 4 sacks in the game. Really incredible game for him in that defense. Gesicki. I don't know why I like to say his name. Gesicki. It just sounds cool. Gesicki. But he had 5 catches for over 100 yards, 2 touchdown passes, and he could have had another one. He looks like he can emerge as one of Joe Burrow's top targets, because outside of him, Jamar Chase had I think 47 yards, and nobody really woke up outside of Gesicki. He seemed like he had the matchup that they wanted to exploit, and they exploited it. Trace Brown ran the ball really well, caught the ball out of the backfield really well, 27 carries for 120 yards. He also had 5 catches for 37 yards in the touchdown pass. So we're going to find out what they are this week, Mitchell. They play the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday Night Football, only on Prime Video, and I'm going to be there, Mitchell, and I'm going to keep a very close eye on this offense and how they execute if T. Higgins isn't in the lineup, because that's just, I think, their second win over since 2023 with T. Higgins out of the lineup. So now they're 2-6 when he's not in the lineup. And this offense looked really good. Give Joe Burrow a lot of credit. 251 yards, 5 touchdown passes. He got the job done, found other guys to really be able to push the ball down the field. But is it sustainable? We shall see.
We shall, and we shall. Last week, I posed you a question. I said, are the Chargers the best defense in football, buy or sell? And you sold on that. Richard, today, I know they were going against the Browns and Jameis Winston, but they certainly at times had me thinking, man, this might be the best defense in football. Has your mindset changed at all after seeing them today take it to the Cleveland Browns?
It hasn't changed, but again, they're living up to the potential that they've showed over the last, 4 or 5 years with the talent that they had. I mean, Derwin James, Asante Samuel Jr., Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, the names go on and on and on. All these Pro Bowl, all pro caliber players, and they're starting to play together as a really talented unit. You got Justin Herbert playing really good football, and it's flipped back and forth because earlier in the season they were leaning on the run game, and J.K. Dobbins was winning Player of the Week, and had all that acclaim, making all those big plays, and I think he's still playing solid football. He had 14 carries for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns today, but they're starting to lean on Justin Herbert a little bit more, 18 to 27 for 282 yards, 2 touchdown passes. But the guy who's been the greatest surprise this season has been Quentin Johnson. A lot of people were calling him a bust last season. That he was dropping a lot of passes, easy passes, wide open passes, and this year it just seems like he's turned everything around. It's been a beautiful, wonderful story of redemption for this young man, and it's really helped to power this offense during this run they've been on. Their defense holding the Browns to 10 points. They picked off Jameis 3 times. That's why the Chargers are this week's Uber Eats almost perfect defense. This segment is brought to you by Uber Eats. It highlights the defense that put on the week's most dominating performance. And again, there are 3 interceptions of Jameis. They sacked him 6 times. It was just so much chaos going on. They were in his face, made him uncomfortable the entire game, coming off a huge win where they beat the Baltimore Ravens. Everybody was looking forward to seeing what Jameis would do in this game, but the Chargers never allowed him to get going, never allowed him to feel comfortable. They dropped one. Derwin James dropped a really easy interception too, so it could have been 4. But that's this week's Uber Eats almost perfect defense of the week. And remember, you can order almost anything you want with Uber Eats, the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now.
No question. I mean, Jameis Winston was a hot name after last week's performance. I mean, heck, I started him in daily fantasy this week. I thought he could be a flyer on DraftKings, a friend of the program, but not so fast. This Chargers defense on the road held their own. They're deserving recipients of this week's almost perfect defense, like you said, brought to our by our friends at Uber Eats. Richard, let's talk about the Bills. This game was a lot closer than I think a lot expected. Another division game against the Dolphins comes down to the wire. The Bills escape with a game-winning field goal. What's the strategy going forward? Let's start with the Dolphins because it seems like their season is at a loss. Do you just sit Tua at this point, or what do you do if you are the coach and general manager of this Dolphins team?
Well, clearly Tua doesn't want to sit. Tua wanted to sit. Tua will be sitting. So I don't think you do that. I think you just keep competing. Teams have come back and teams have rallied, and the Miami Dolphins being one of them. I remember when Flores was there, I think they won 7 straight to end the season. tried to get themselves in the playoff hunt and barely missed it. I don't think in the NFL you have teams that punt seasons. I know you have teams that don't have good enough teams to compete. Like right now, the Carolina Panthers are dealing with that. Offensively, the Browns are dealing with a little bit of that. Um, the Patriots are dealing with issues. The Jacksonville Jaguars, teams where you're just like, hey, can't figure it out. You can't figure out what's not working for your team. But no, I don't think you punt the season. I think you got to keep competing. Buffalo obviously having a great season. We talked about all the great things Josh Allen's doing. Had another great game this game. Um, and the Dolphins had opportunities to win this game, to walk away with a W, and just things just aren't, the ball isn't bouncing their way this season on either side of the ball. But all you can do is keep competing.
Well, no question. I mean, the Bills, everyone expected them to win, but Miami came out. They needed this win more. And like you said, crazier things have happened. You got to keep that gas pedal to the floor if you're Miami, because what is the alternative? I mean, you already got your quarterback, you already got your playmakers, you're now healthy. Let's see where this season goes. Richard, I mean, we're through week 9 already. We're past the halfway point. Where does your head go the rest of the way? I mean, because we've got my Detroit Lions, who I know the Kansas City Chiefs are playing on Monday Night Football, but I believe they've shown enough to show you, Richard Sherman, that they are deserving of your number 1 spot in your power ranks. What else do they have to do to prove you that they are worthy?
Kansas City Chiefs have to lose, Mitchell. It has less to do with the Honolulu Blue Detroit Lions and more to do with the Kansas City Chiefs. They are the defending Super Bowl champions and have not lost a game. So for me to take them out of the top spot would be what they consider asinine, Mitchell. I cannot do it. I will not do it. And they must be dethroned. And once they are dethroned, then I will put the Detroit Lions up there. But not so fast, my friend. They are 7-0, have not lost a game. And I'm waiting for somebody to figure them out and give them an L.
I respect that answer. I respect it. Richard, this concludes week 9. Sign us off, my friend.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope you had a very happy Halloween and got to trick or treat. Give me something good to eat. If you don't, I don't care. And something about underwear. But I hope you and your kids had a wonderful Halloween. We did at Thursday Night Football. We did on this podcast. We gave away a lot of candy. We wore costumes and things of that nature. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your night and enjoy your football, whether your team won or lost. They get to play again next week, unless they're on the bye. So we appreciate you joining us. As always, hit that sub button if you're new.